Philly sports love and pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the TheP-LotPodcast. We are officially live. Yeah, that was a little. Thanks for catching that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude. So, like, my whole morning's all thrown off. My power went out.
Ugh.
I got coffee earlier. Hasn't
Kicked in yet.
kicked in yet. No,
Mhm.
So I'm still kind of a little sleepy. It's 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning here in the Delaware Valley. But yeah, man, it's the P-Lot Podcast. We're live once again. It's John here once again, joined by the main man himself, Michael. Michael, how are we doing today?
We're good, man. Can't be too upset after seeing how the guys on the ice are looking, seeing how the Flyers look in the first few preseason games.
Yeah, I think I said this once back, and we both kind of agreed. Like, there wouldn't have been a logical move for the Flyers to make in the offseason bigger than the arrival of the franchise's savior in Matvei Michkov, unless they swung some sort of trade where they got Drysdale, or I don't even know, dude. Like, you know more hockey than me. Like, some insane maneuver.
Yeah, no, there wasn't many. There was some creative things they could have done, but between just getting Matvei Michkov here and actually getting Alexei Kolosov back here.
Yeah, it's funny when they signed that one goalkeeper for like the
he very quickly made his way
did
back.
a 180 and was like, well,
he still wants to only play for the Flyers, but I mean that's going to be hard. However, if you're giving him starter minutes in the AHL as a goalie, which you should, not have like Cal Peterson play over him, because why would you do that? I think he might be more inclined to stay, or at least you have him here to trade one of Ersin Fedotov, which it's probably not going to be Fedotov because they just gave him the contract, or Alexei Kolosov. So, yeah, Flyers have options again. But the big story with the Flyers at this point has been Matvei Michkov during preseason games. It has been unbelievable. You can just see the skill oozing just every time he touches the puck. There's little things he does, moving the puck from skate to stick when it gets caught up in his feet. He's super strong on the puck despite being like undersized. He's super quick, so smart. The IQ's off the charts. You just see it on every sort of. It's truly like every time he touches the puck, there is danger of a goal being scored for the Flyers. He's directing traffic on the power play. He's single-handedly going to make the power play from like the worst in hockey the last 4 years to like probably at the worst like league average. He's ridiculously good, and when he's on it, he's like quick movements, hard, accurate passes, and getting pucks towards the net. It's unbelievable. He had a power play goal yesterday, creating chances on other power plays, and obviously the overtime winner, beautiful snipe. He created some other chances in the overtime. It's just there's another level of skill that you see when you have these sort of special players, and I think that he is one of those special players. Like, it's just you watch him and you can't help but think, or can't help but compare and be like, it just reminds me of someone that I probably have hated longer than anybody in sports, and Sidney Crosby. It's just like the way that every pass is on the tape, every pass is perfectly in stride, accurate. It's special. He does creative board plays to get past defenders, to create open space. He attacks open space really well. He's going to be super creative. He tried a little Michigan lacrosse style goal yesterday. He's just going to try a bunch of crap. And honestly, it sounds like Torts is going to give him preferential treatment a little bit, which honestly, that's a good thing. I don't care. He talks about how much the Flyers, he said literally, we're starving for this type of playmaking and skill. He said basically, I don't really care about his defense at this point. So I don't think there's much that Matvey can do that's gonna make Torts like feel like he needs to bench him or anything like he's done with young players in the past. I think he knows that this is different, and he knows that this kid's generational and deserves to, be given a nice long leash. So yeah.
Well, I mean, when Torts coached the Lightning
Yeah.
back in the day, he had a player by the name of Martin St. Louis, and undersized. Well, she's shorter than Michkov, but he was an undersized forward
Mhm.
who was insane at skating and passing. And I'm sure Torts is probably excited to have a type of player like that because, like, let's be realistic, Michael. Like, besides Michkov on the Philadelphia, besides Matvey Michkov on the Philadelphia Flyers, like realistically, like who else
No, there's
do
on the
they
Flyers.
had? Look at this Flyers team like last year. It's just like basically all blue collar hockey players. It's not a dig, but it's you watch the games where you're like Tippett's taking 6 shots on goal, but none are going in.
Yeah, yeah, like
Travis Konechny is probably like besides Mitchkov the most skilled Flyers like like all around game.
yeah, and
Uh,
that's just not great. Like you
that's
even
just not
yesterday,
good. And like him or Morgan Frost,
yeah.
realistically.
And you're watching yesterday, you even see the skill gap between Michkov and Konechny at this point, like already. Like he's putting passes on the tape, Konechny's shooting it kind of into the goal. And again, I get it, you're not going to score every time, but it's like Matvey Michkov is one of those guys that it's just like you watch a few games and you just see he's levels above most players that are on the ice with him, like at all times. It's unbelievable. And it was nice to see Captain Coots, Sean Couturier, standing up for him, not once, but multiple times. There was a time where guy was roughing him up behind the play, totally trying to bait the rookie, bait the 19-year-old into getting into a fight. And Couturier came flying in and actually fought him, which was really, really cool to see. And then again, on later in the game, there was a little skirmish that guy was trying to rough up Michkov, and multiple guys came to his defense. Sean Couturier came in there and he said, "I'll effing kill you. You know that, right?" And pretty funny, pretty good stuff. So it looks like it looks like Couturier is trying to make his case to play on the same line as Michkov from like a "I'll protect him" standpoint. Even though I think the most optimal,
I don't know if he'll last 20 games with his
right? Like I think the most
last year.
optimal winning option is to put him with like Morgan Frost. But it is nice to see that the captain and a lot of the guys already at this point are making it a point to, make sure that no one's taking dirty shots, no one's taking cheapies, no one's successfully getting under the skin of Matvey Michkov. They're coming into his
I don't know if you
defense.
can really get under Matvey Michkov's skin. He just
No,
seems
I don't think so either. Like
more mature despite his age.
he was standing his own, and then Couturier came in and he just kind of skated away. I was like, all right, you handle it. Thanks.
Well, it's a preseason game. Not to like be a Debbie Downer, but like the Bruins have just given the Flyers so many problems, and I think they probably, when they see they're playing the Flyers on the schedule, they probably are like, "Oh, this is an easy win," because we're better than them in every aspect of hockey.
Right.
And I think they got a little. I'm sure they're probably now thinking, well, it's going to be a little harder now to beat the
No,
Flyers.
they made it a point. They wanted to. Multiple guys were trying to, agitate Michkov and
Oh,
do
you mean the
things.
team with Brad Marchand is going to want to
Yeah,
try to
and he
act?
wasn't even like honestly, obviously he wasn't even out there, but it was just I don't know. It's
Rat
interesting
boy.
to see. It's pretty weak in my opinion, honestly. Like, oh, let's go after the 19-year-old and try
You know,
to.
you know what they kind of do remind me. They're like the NHL equivalent to the New York Knicks.
Yeah, yeah, definitely the gritty, good team that.
Speaking of the New York Knicks, I think this is
Mhm.
probably one of the most talked about non-games in the sports world recently.
Big
Um,
trade, big trade.
yeah, are you able to still hear me? My internet's kind of acting up.
Yeah, you're glitching, but you sound fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
so The New York Knicks traded Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, and a first-round pick to the Minnesota Timberwolves for local guy Carl Anthony Towns. Now, Michael, when this trade went down, you had a pretty good analysis of it. I'm going to give my general take on it,
Yeah,
and
go
then
ahead.
you can go in with the analysis. So, I don't really see how this benefits either team because you're now putting a lot on Anthony Edwards' shoulders if you are the Minnesota Timberwolves. Julius Randle wasn't even part of the Knicks playoff run. He was just always like, he's like their Tobias, basically.
Mhm.
He was their Tobias. And Dante DiVincenzo is he's one of the best role players in the NBA. But you're giving up a guy that was your second best player in order to do this. And we know why, and we know that it was because of financials, because they want to keep Nas Reed. The way the NBA's like CBA structured, they're trying to prevent teams from building these like long-term super teams, like the goal, basically to prevent the Golden State Warriors from ever happening again.
Right.
That's pretty much the goal of the new CBA, right?
Right.
So like as my example, Golden State Warriors, like the Warriors would have had to trade either Draymond or Klay Thompson like 3 years into their run
Mhm.
based off these new rules, right?
Mhm.
But for the Knicks, like we know what Karl Anthony Towns can do on like a normal basketball team. This was like a normally coached team. I think it's a great move for the Knicks. But for Karl Anthony Towns, who has like no knee cartilage, for the most part, Tom Thibodeau is gonna ask him to die for loose balls, hustle 40 minutes up and down the court and play defense. That's not Karl Anthony Towns' game. So I don't know why they would make that move. And then like the whole point of their offseason was trading like 6 first rounders for Michael Bridges was the Nova Knicks.
Mhm.
DiVincenzo was supposed to be a big part of that. And
Yeah.
I guess not. So
It
anyway,
was reports that came out that like reports that came out it was a little weird. It was like Dante DiVincenzo wasn't really all in with the Nova Knicks thing. Like he thought it was probably cool, but I think he saw the Mikal Bridges trade and was thinking I'm the one that's going to be losing playing time because of this, and I don't
probably.
think I like that. So it seemed like he was pretty content to go. Interesting that, I wonder how Jalen Brunson feels that he sacrificed almost $40 million, something like that, with his extension with the Knicks per year in order to, or like $40 million, whatever it was. He took a huge pay cut so they could pay all his best friends and they could have a fun team. And now you traded one of them away. Interesting. I want to look at it from the Timberwolves perspective first, because I think this is a little more, I don't know, like it's one of those things. I'm seeing memes where it's like, oh, we want to see if Anthony Edwards is the real deal. So his prize is we're giving him 2002 level spacing with a front court of Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert. Like, no, like those guys, the first two guys they named can shoot threes, but like Cat was a very, very good 3-point shooter. And the spacing in the front court is just not great. DiVincenzo off the bench will help with that, but again, he's going to be coming off the bench. He's not really going to be starting. But I did read that you look at the Timberwolves, and this was like kind of like a future trade where the Cat contract and the Randall contracts are almost like a wash, but it does open up space, like you said, to extend Nas Reed, and then you add DiVincenzo, who's a really nice supporting player that you're opening up the window for Anthony Edwards to be the best player on a contending team for a longer period of time instead of with this current roster, which is a little more limited at this point. You got a draft pick out of it. You got a DiVincenzo out of it. all that sort of stuff. However, I do think the spacing is a bit of an issue. I'll be intrigued to see what it actually looks like during the regular season. I know we kind of thought the spacing would be an issue last year, and it sort of wasn't. But Cat had his ups and downs in the playoffs, definitely more downs than ups. Randall didn't even play in the playoffs. Obviously, DiVincenzo was excellent. But it'll be interesting to see. I think that helps Minnesota against the Mavericks. I think they get more physical. Obviously, the Mavs went to the final, so that plays better in that role. I think it's probably pretty similar to what they had last year against the Nuggets. Like trading away Cat and getting guys like DiVincenzo and Randall, I think it just makes your team tougher and more physical and able to just kind of body teams around a little bit. So they bolstered up their physicality with making that trade for the Timberwolves. But it's almost like a little bit more of a futuristic outlook for it, as opposed to right now as heavily. So that's kind of the Timberwolves. It's why it seems like it maybe makes a little bit less sense for them at the moment. Now onto the Knicks side of the trade. They lost Isaiah Hartenstein in free agency, and it left their centers as like Mitchell Robinson, who's probably not going to be healthy until like January, Precious Achua, who's definitely severely undersized, and like you were going to perhaps try to run like Julius Randle at the center, which just like is not ideal.
Yeah.
So I think part of that trade was getting Cat as, yes, he is a center that was forced to play the 4 last year because they got Gobert alongside of him. But, I think people forgot the Cat is a center by trade. I know he's softer than most, big centers or whatever, but he is still a center. So it kind of fixed that void a little bit. And I think it really favors the Knicks. Like they built their roster a little bit better to handle teams like the Celtics and the Pacers that are faster and stretch the floor and want to shoot a bunch of threes and get out and transition and that sort of stuff. And I think this trade helps with that. You lose DiVincenzo, sure, but you get Cat, who's faster. He's like, in his own right, he's a very similar player to Kristaps Porzingis, and I think that's kind of what the Knicks' focus was on making this trade to kind of align themselves a little bit better with the Celtics. And if you look at the Knicks' like top 6 players at this point, it matches up pretty well with just about anybody in the league, with Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Karl Anthony Towns, and like guys like Deuce McBride off the bench. Like it matches up fairly.
Well, we know what the Knicks' kryptonite might be. It's going to be their health because one, Tibbs does not load manage, and
Yeah, he'll
Anunoby and Karl Anthony Towns have had. I mean,
they've
OG
had injury
Anunoby definitely, he just can't stay healthy, and Karl Anthony Towns, as we've alluded to, was the reason why Randall was moved in the trade was because Karl Anthony Towns has bad knees.
Yeah, so they made that move, and like you look at sorry, I lost my train of thought. So it makes them faster, makes them, stretch the floor a little bit better, with Cat being able to shoot some threes and whatnot. But like you said, injuries are a legit concern for this team, especially the way Tibbs coaches it. And even Brunson was really banged up by the time the playoffs were ending. So, health is certainly a concern. Who like benefits the most? What I'm getting at here is that I think the Sixers benefit from this trade with their matchups with the Knicks. Obviously, we know that Embiid eats Cat for lunch pretty much every single time they play. He averages like 29 points a game against him, has dominated him essentially his entire career, and I'm expecting that sort of thing to continue. He's had success against Mitchell Robinson as well, and like this doesn't play well for Embiid, and it doesn't play well against the Sixers in general because they did get a bit softer. And we know that Cat has had his playoff woes. You lose DiVincenzo, who's a real thorn in the Sixers side, tough guard that shoots the ball really, really well. They got softer. They got weaker. Mikal Bridges, I wouldn't say he's like weak or soft, but it's, in comparison to other guys, he's a smaller guy. So you look at how the Sixers basically got bullied to death by the Knicks, and it's why they lost. They were just getting out hustled, out rebounded, out physical the entire time. This definitely helps them because the Knicks lose some of that with the guys that they did trade away. And Cat's play style does not necessarily fit the bill of a physical, gritty, like tough guy sort of thing. So I think this helps the Knicks against certain teams. I do think it hurts them against other teams, and depending on who they really believe the true contenders of the Eastern Conference are, I think, in their minds makes this more of a win than a loss. But from the Sixers' perspective, I think that if they were to meet the Knicks in a playoff series, and obviously health is always the biggest concern, I do think the Sixers would be able to beat the Knicks, and I'd feel pretty good about saying that. Whereas even if they ran it back with their team last year, what they had before the trade, I would have had my doubts about the Sixers being able
Do you think the Knicks called the T-Wolves originally for Rudy Gobert because he fits more of the Thibodeau like
No, because
hustle?
I think they wanted someone to stretch the floor. Like I think they felt that they needed someone that could knock down threes out of that position. Like I think if they go and get someone like Gobert, like when you play the Celtics, he's almost unplayable. Like the way that he can't really guard the perimeter and the way that teams attack that in the playoffs anyways. The Celtics can go 5 out and run 5 guys along the perimeter, and all of a sudden Rudy Gobert's useless out there no matter who he's guarding. He can guard Tatum, he can guard Brown, he can guard, Derek White, Drew Holiday, Porzingis. It doesn't matter who he's on. It's not going to be fun for him. I do think they want to it's both teams traded quote unquote bad contracts, to take on the other one, give it a little change of scenery, I guess. I don't know. But ultimately, I think both teams do have their own benefits and they have their own weaknesses as well from this. I think it's one of those interesting trades where it doesn't feel like any team got like a slam dunk. No one got fleeced. But there's definitely, I think, some head scratchers on either side.
Yeah, it's a really odd trade, but it is what it is. We'll see more as it shakes out. I do think that like the East to me, like the East is the Sixers, the Knicks, and the Celtics, right?
I
In that,
guess
like
I'd throw the Bucks in there cautiously.
Bucks as well.
Yeah.
Because he still got Dame. I mean, if Dame just doesn't act like that's the funny thing is like if you're Dame, are you even more frustrated now because you're like, well, I can't go to play with the Knicks now because they're now pretty much tapped out on assets to bring me over. Unless they're gonna move OG Anunoby to the Bucks for him straight up or something like that.
No, they're not. No.
That ain't happening. But whatever. It is what it is. So real quick, because it is baseball season, we'll talk a little Phillies here. So the Phillies have locked up the 2 seed for the National League. And they won the National League East for the first time since 2011. Yay!
Listen, that deserves.
We're here. We've only been talking about this since like May, Michael, that they're going to win the division since the Braves had all their injury woes and struggles.
It deserves to be celebrated. It doesn't happen a lot.
I know. It's done. It's like almost like a project you have, like because you're Michael's going for his master's degree. Everybody, it's like this project. It's like a project you had like for 3 or 4 months that you finally just got done, and you're just like, oh, thank God.
Onto the net for sure. But listen, I got spoiled as a very young child. I thought it was normal that the Phillies were very good.
Wow.
From when I was.
Weren't you in for a rude awakening?
Listen, when I started becoming conscious at Phillies games, they were winning the World Series, John. I was like, oh my God. And then they were like always in it. And I'm like, Phillies are just going to always be good. And then the next decade went by and I was like, okay, this is no longer fun.
Oh, dude. So like I would say like from like 2018 to like 2021 was like that those Phillies teams were like the Phillies teams that I grew up on, where you're like, how the hell did they not make the playoffs?
Like it's agonizing. It went from like, all right, this team is absolute hot utter garbage, like they suck, to like they make me want to scoop my eyes out because why do you still really suck, but like you win 80 games now. Like, what is wrong with you? Why are you the way that you are? And obviously they've gotten over the hump the last few years to get into the playoffs. We want them to get over another hump now. But
so everyone's still free. So everyone's still mortified because the offense has just been cold the last couple days.
I'm not making much out of these Nationals games. I'll be 100%.
I'm not either.
Jeff Hoffman's throwing 95 middle to Joey Gallo, just hoping he gets himself out, and he happens to barely hit a home run. It's like, okay, like no one, they don't, not to say they don't care, but it's like they're getting the work in, they're staying healthy, and they have a plan for this upcoming week off to get themselves ready to go by next Saturday.
Yeah, because like my thing is like this. I think the reverse would be happening if I think the same thing would be happening if the reverse was true. Like if they hung like a 15 burger on the Nationals, people would be freaking out because of the layoff. They're like, "Oh my god, we just
this team's gonna get so cold." Exactly. You're right.
You know, like so. I don't really think
needs to relax. That's the real thing here. Like everyone truly needs to relax. We have no idea who we're playing because the NL wild card is still, the last two spots are still up for grabs between three teams: the Atlanta Braves, the New York Mets, and the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks, like, they can't control their own destiny. Major League Baseball is like kind of screwing both the Braves and the Mets by making them potentially play a doubleheader tomorrow before having to go on the road. Both teams would end up having to go on the road anyways to play their wild card series if they make it. It's just, it's a total meltdown on their part. Like they should have just sent the teams to Tampa and a neutral site because the Rays weren't home and just playing there. But regardless,
make them play in the cornfield in Iowa for the
just anything, not this crap. Regardless,
like what?
Playoff spots are still up for grabs in the National League. Teams, there are clinching scenarios, but it's rather, a lot of stuff can happen. There's tiebreakers involved. It's just it's pretty tight. So the Phillies, obviously you won't know who you're playing until Saturday because the wild card series needs to shake out. But I don't think we'll even know who the potential two teams could be until Monday's even concluded, because those doubleheader games, I think, will most likely matter in terms of seeding between the Braves and the Mets, if they even make the playoffs. Like, if one team even gets eliminated, they might still need to play because seeding between the Diamondbacks and said other team could matter. Like, it's truly, truly, truly something. But yeah, you look at the National League, Dodgers are the 1, Phillies are the 2, Brewers are the 3, Padres are the 4, and then again 5 and 6 are up for grabs between those three teams. You gotta be excited. They're gonna be on the other side of that they've usually been. They're gonna have home field in the division series for the first time in quite some time. I think if they do advance, they'll have home field in the championship series. I'm giving very little hope on the Dodgers getting out of the division series because of their lack of starting pitching. I don't know when the last time a starting pitcher for them has thrown more than 5 innings in a game. And it's certainly not, we're resting them. That's for certain, because you look at those pitch counts, by the time they're at 5 innings, they're close to triple digits every time. So,
I mean, has there been a team that's won the World Series? I mean, well, you say that, Michael, and then you have the Texas Rangers last year.
Yeah. But even then, like, they still...
I mean, if Ohtani goes nuclear, if Ohtani goes nuclear, like Corey Seager and like some of the other guys, like,
step up. No, I get it. Their lineup's certainly capable of carrying. I just don't think it's capable of carrying and like, if they do manage to get out of the division series, I'll be so serious when I say I don't think they have a prayer's chance against anybody in the championship series. That could be any other team in the National League. I don't think they win. Like,
even the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, even the Diamondback, even the Brewers, even like all of them, every single team. I just don't think you'll be able to make it, because even like Nathan Eovaldi, every how many ever days was going out there and he was giving you like 6 innings or so. Like Montgomery was giving you into the 6th inning every time. These guys are rough. And it's also the Rangers had like the best playoff offensive postseason series like ever. Like, it would have to be historic
If you're
offensive.
everyone talks about the Dodgers being like the analytics geniuses with pitching.
No, they're not. Like
They're not. Like the
they're the
Brewers are way
thinking
better. Like the Brewers trade
Phillies.
Corbin Burns, and I'm like,
The
oh, they're gonna suck.
Phillies, the Phillies are way better in that regard because the Dodgers, they think they're ahead of the curve with stuff, but realistically, what they do is they just kill everybody's arm, and they're actually probably the biggest culprit.
Dude,
Very
even
bad
the
for
Braves
baseball.
are way better.
Yeah, and but it's just it's honestly a shame if you're a pitcher that's going to go to pitch for the Dodgers. Like you're just going to kind of you're like
Guardians.
destined for some sort of
Dude,
surgery.
the Guardians might start Ben Lively in a playoff game. Like, think about that.
And it might be pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, we'll have more to talk about when we do a show. We'll try to do it next, I guess, Saturday, which would be before game 1 of the division series games. We'll be able to wrap up the wild card series, all that sort of stuff. But for now, on to football. Week 4 is upon us.
Right. And let's talk about the Thursday night game. The abomination that was that game, dude.
Yeah, both those teams, the Giants and the Cowboys, obviously.
I don't want to go on the Giants and the Cowboys first. So it's not a good look for your league when maybe the most famous announcer, like play-by-play announcer for football in the history of broadcasting, and Al Michaels is making jokes about how poorly officiated the game is. That's not good.
Yeah, it was a mess officiating wise. There was just so many penalties. It was a pretty ugly game.
Everyone talks about Al Michaels like losing it. I thought it was hilarious when he cracked a joke saying, "Oh, I wonder if the refs order some more flags from Amazon Prime."
Yeah, like he has his little,
like he doesn't care.
Yeah, no, he can
he doesn't care.
It was like, I mean, there was a flag that went down at Kirk Herbstreit. Kirk Herbstreit in the booth was like, "Oh my god!" Like he sounded so annoyed when he saw another flag fly. But yeah, no, listen, I think that was everybody.
Kirk Herbstreit calls college football, and like this is kind of where I was kind of leading to, and I'm just gonna say it. I think college, like when we just look at college football and the NFL, like if you had to pick between one to watch on like one day, depending on who's playing, like if it's like Alabama Georgia last night versus like Bills Chiefs, we'll just like that's a good game, right? For both, I would say for both. I'm going to go with Georgia Alabama.
Really, that's interesting
because the league is the officiating is terrible, and B, they clearly favor certain teams over other teams.
In football.
Like you cannot sit there with a straight face, Michael, and tell me that the league doesn't curry favor with the Kansas City Chiefs when it comes to flags.
Yeah, there's big penalties and big spots that just tend to feel like they fall the Chiefs' way. And the Chiefs, they make the teams, they do a great job when they get that bail penalty to make the team pay like every single time. There's not many times the Chiefs get the penalty and still lose. You know what I'm saying? Like they get the penalty and they make sure they win the game. They don't mess around. Like they don't get the pass interference and then throw an interception on the next play. They don't get the pass interference and fumble the ball away and fumble. They don't get the pass interference and miss a field goal. Like that never happens to them. But yeah, going back to Thursday, total mess of a game. Both teams are legitimately flawed. Joe Shane was catching a lot of crap after Thursday's game because you can just tell Malik Neighbors is an absolute stud. He is incredible. Total superstar.
But I haven't to talk about him, but keep going.
Yeah. And it made people revisit we're not paying a quarterback $40 million to hand it to a $14 million running back in reference to not keeping Saquon Barkley. Even though if you're smart, you can make that cap hit only $5-6 million, which is what the Eagles did. They let Leonard Williams go and Xavier McKinney go. And listen, Joe Shane put in heavy emphasis on age and positional value, not paying a running back, not paying an interior defensive D lineman, not paying a safety, but instead going out and unloading a lot of assets for Brian Burns, who has struggled through his first few games for the New York Giants, going out and paying for the offensive line, which has been better, but it's still not really good at any part. And you look at the Giants running game, they had like 24 carries for like 28 yards, something terrible on Thursday. And you look at what Saquon Barkley's doing with the Eagles, and it's just like you could have made all those offensive line moves and you still could have found room to pay Saquon Barkley. You could have made those moves and still found the room to pay one of the defensive players that Xavier McKinney leads the league in interceptions right now. And Leonard Williams leads the league in quarterback hits among interior defensive linemen right now and pressure rate. Like, he's getting home significantly. And Joe Shane, you look at the Giants and be like, man, what if they also had like a really good running back that teams would have to key in on and worry about to go along with Malik Neighbors, who is quite literally a freak and is very, very good.
Oh, you mean you're not a huge fan of the F them running backs fantasy draft strategy king Devin Singletary?
Yeah, listen, I think Devin Singletary is a very solid player. This is not a knock on him, but he's just not Saquon Barkley. And
Devin Singletary is like a very good like number 2 running back.
Right. And it's like, if he's your number 1 running back, it's because you have him paired with like,
well, you have like a juggernaut passing attack.
Yeah, but or it's like you have 2 running backs and you can, hot hand it and it doesn't really, you're not missing a beat like when he was playing alongside Zach Moss before. So it's just Malik Neighbors is good. Every time the ball's thrown his way, he's simply open. He's always open. And that's going to be like, he's one of those guys. He's one of that alpha talented. He was cooking Trayvon Diggs all day. But Wan'Dale Robinson and Malik Neighbors of the 40 pass attempts had 29 of the targets, and of the 20 7 or 29 completions or something, they had 23 of them. Like, they are going to be overworked, overused all year. And listen, he concussed himself on the last. Like, it's just the wear and tear that he's going to have to deal with. He's way on pace to break the targets record and all these rookie records and stuff like that. And it just, you're gonna almost somehow run a receiver into the ground, which almost feels impossible. But
future Giants quarterback Sam Darnold is gonna at least have some weapons to work with once he arrives in the offseason,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, so Joe Shane totally, I think, screwed up the rebuild. And then you look at
just say he totally blows.
Yeah,
he blows.
You look at the Cowboys side of things, and they are an embarrassment,
a mess
as well. Like, they cannot run the ball even a little bit. Rico Dowdle trying to be your feature back is a huge mistake. Zeke, for every 3 runs,
Rico Dowdle, I think, is a decent running back, kind of like Devin Singletary, if he's paired with someone.
That's my point. He can't be your feature back, and that's all the Cowboys. Like, you look at Zeke, for every 3 runs that Zeke has, that's that was nice. That he was getting downhill, he fell forward. He has so many plays of him just being looking washed, doesn't have the burst, all that sort of stuff. And Rico Dowdle is just not an every down sort of back, and that's what they're utilizing. And the Cowboys have had such a successful passing attack the last bunch of years, but they've always had a threat to be able to kind of run the ball down your throats that you had to respect it a little more, and it really opened things up. But they've truly become one-dimensional, where even washed Tony Pollard last year was significantly more threatening than whatever they're putting out in the backfield right now. And it's pretty telling. Their offensive line is not nearly as good as it used to be, and they have, their defensive issues. Obviously, the Giants are so bad that the Cowboys' worst team against the run in the first 3 weeks was able to not let any rushing yards, which I think that's more of a say-so about the Giants than it is the Cowboys. But I don't think either of those teams are very good at all. I really don't believe in the Cowboys in terms of like they're a team that's supposed to be a playoff team, potential
Well,
contender. I don't believe in them at
well,
all.
one of my hot takes before the season, Michael, was this Cowboys team was vastly overrated. I looked at their roster and didn't think they were good. And I
It's
think
coming to fruition, John. It's absolutely
because they
coming.
got bailed out by the officials, like they got bailed out by the officiating on Thursday
Mhm.
night.
Mhm.
There was no way the NFL was going to allow the Dallas Cowboys to go 1-3, losing to the Giants of all teams on Thursday night, and
Yeah.
then being a laughing stock for the next 4 days.
No, that was just. Then listen, Daniel Jones, he does it to himself. How many times? Like there were a lot of points Daniel Jones left on the board
Dude,
where
I think
this guy's open.
Daniel Jones's career was summed up on one play on Thursday night, Michael. The big play by Malik Neighbors, that 50-yard reception he had.
Oh, where it should have been a touchdown. Yeah.
Michael, if you watch the replay, he is staring Malik Neighbors down the entire time and didn't know when to throw the ball. Like all he had, like, he should have just snapped it, dropped back, looked. As soon as he got separation, lead him on his throw, and then Neighbors would have caught the ball and in stride, maybe not full speed, but he would have beaten Malik Hooker on that for a
Yeah.
touchdown.
It's just he totally cooks Trayvon Diggs, and it's so painfully open, and he gets it to him late, and seemingly also underthrown. Like it was late, but it still felt like if you could have let him, even though it was late, he still would have caught it in stride and been able to make Hooker miss or just outrun him for a touchdown. But it's the fact that Neighbors had to sit there and wait for it as if the safety was all like the safety wasn't there. The Malik Hooker was not like waiting for him. He had to haul ass to get over there and, able to get Malik Neighbors who had to slow up to go catch the ball. Like it wasn't a whole shot. Like it was just open. You just had to kind of hit him in stride and it's a free touchdown. Like, how bad of a throw it needs to be to not be a touchdown on that play.
Yeah,
And there was just multiple times where he's open and the ball's being under, like the interception was straight up Malik Neighbors cooking Diggs and the ball was late and underthrown and it was able to get picked off. He's just not good. I don't know. He's just
well,
a bad quarterback.
you just hit it right in the head. He's not good. Kind of going back to what you said about Dak Prescott, and I think their offensive line being bad. I had people text me, going, "Why are the Cowboys paying Dak $60 million, but they're just running the ball? Like their offense is so predictable. Have they thrown like one? Did they throw one pass on first down on Thursday night, Michael? Like their offense is so predictable. It's run the ball up the middle, first down, like short pass on second down, and then third down, it's like F it, get the ball to CeeDee Lamb. We got to find them somewhere.
Yeah, it's just they have their own big branch of dysfunction that like Braylon Allen was drafted by the New York Jets in the
I
fourth
was
round.
just about to say that.
And like Braylon Allen, that was going in the fourth round was like way too low, regardless of who took him. But like running back needy teams, significantly running back needy teams like Braylon Allen, or sorry, like the Dallas Cowboys, would have been behooved to take them in like the third round, even. I mean, he went in the fourth, but like,
Well, no, the Cowboys could take him in the fourth round because he got picked before them, but they took Cooper Beebe in the third round. Their
like
center.
no one would have bat their eye if they took him in like the first two rounds, truly, because he would have went out there and he'd be looking very, very good for them, and the Cowboys' offense would be a lot more balanced, and they'd be just a much better team at this point if they could run the ball the way that
Well,
Braylon Allen
well,
can.
no, they call a lot of runs, Michael. That's the thing, and the reason why they're calling so many runs is because their first round pick, Tyler Guyton, who was linked to the Eagles, and I'm really glad we took Quinyon Mitchell and not Tyler Guyton because, like, Tyler Guyton is really a right tackle. He was a right tackle in college, or he projected to be a right tackle in the NFL because he's not athletic enough to play the left tackle spot. Like you watch Joe Alt, guys. Well, Joe Alt I think is a right tackle right
They
now.
get.
But
Go
do you
ahead.
see my point? Like,
Yeah, Cowboys get bullied, man. Like, I'm looking at their team rushing for and against. They're averaging 3.5 yards per attempt for 75.3 yards a game on the ground, and they're allowing 4.6 yards per attempt and 145 yards a game. And that 4.6 really should be inflated much higher, but the Giants rushed for like 1.8 yards a game on Thursday.
well, yeah, it's because the Cowboys sold out to stop the run and try to let Danny Dimes cook them.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, this is I think the last talking point of the two coaches.
Yeah.
This is kind of be controversial. I think Brian Daboll is a better coach than Mike McCarthy. I think if you put Daboll on the Cowboys, I think like you'd see Dak Prescott get more credit because he's going to be hitting all these short to intermediate throws you saw Daniel Jones do, but he can at least throw deep balls way better than Daniel Jones. But man, like Brian Daboll, like might be one of the biggest cowards in terms of aggression.
Yeah, you talk about going for it and stuff like that. Giants totally screwed that up multiple times.
I don't know, like talk about zero end game awareness. Like clearly the flags were favoring the Cowboys. You weren't going to get some magic call that's going to like call back a Cowboy touchdown. Like
Or like a huge pass
like,
interference to move the ball like 40 yards into Cowboys.
well, if you remember they picked up the flag on the Rico Dowdle touchdown where clearly like there was a block in the back.
Yeah.
Like you weren't going to get that, dude.
No, and
And
it's just yeah, go ahead.
he thought he was going to field goal. He thought he was going to field goal the Cowboys to death. Like he got field goaled to death against the Commanders when like they had like the least accurate kicker in pro football last year, and Greg Joseph. Now, granted, he hit 5 field goals. Like,
yeah, but you look at like a couple of them were chip shots because they were close. They had 4th and goal. They had 4th and 3, and it's just like, what is more likely? You have Daniel Jones as your quarterback, who we all know stinks.
but he can run.
What is more likely?
Spread it out,
up 3
spread
yards.
it out, and just tell Daniel Jones if no one is open, plow your way in the end zone.
It's just like what's more likely to happen? You get 3 yards and a first down, or 3 yards and a touchdown, or you have to go drive the length of the field, go 70 yards again when you get the ball back, 70 plus yards again. Like you just playing the simple thought there. It's like, okay, I like my chances to get points right here, right now, versus okay, we need to get a stop.
Like 5 times, Michael. Like
I know.
Just like you can't be.
He might be intentionally throwing to be like, all right, listen, I don't trust the quarterback. Like, please get me a new one. We're like Brian Daboll can't be on the hot seat until they get a new quarterback. It's just simply like the fact of the matter. He deserves to just have his job until he gets a real quarterback. Because if you like decide, all right, we're moving on from Jones, we're also going to fire Daboll. It's like you could really be letting a really good coach walk out the door to go somewhere else if the quarterback situation, like he could go to like Jacksonville or something like that if after the Jags fired Doug and get his hands on someone that can clearly has talent compared to what Daniel Jones has to offer and can perhaps get the most out of what the Jags have down there instead of being stuck rotting with whatever the Giants have. And he really liked Malik Neighbors. He wanted Malik Neighbors. You saw it in Hard Knocks, that sort of thing. So I think he does want to stay. He's just like, please, like on his knees begging, can you get me a new quarterback?
Well, yeah, I mean, intentionally, he's not throwing games.
No, I know he's not throwing the game, but I think like every decision he's making, I think he's like side-eyeing the front office, like, look at what I have to do because of the quarterback. Look at what I feel like I'm forced to do because of the quarterback. It's a mess. They're legitimately.
Why don't you just let Daniel Jones make those mistakes so you're further justified in it?
Mm-hmm.
Like before the Eagles went and got AJ Brown, They featured the hell out of Jalen Reagor, gave him opportunities. He completely fell flat on his face. And then it was like, well, we need to go out and prioritize getting an actual wide receiver, like a veteran wide receiver that's good, right? Instead of like sort of sheltering him to where you're kind of like still doing the, oh, well, maybe we need to give him more opportunities, or like, you just need, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, but anyway, let's just get into the picks, and then
Yeah.
we'll obviously talk. I mean, do you want to talk about the Eagles Saint game before we go into the picks? Briefly?
Honestly, yeah. So the Eagles, huge shout out to the players, like all of them. Every single player deserves so much credit for that victory last week. All the injuries that happened and that are still, like, none of those guys are healthy for today. But Fred Johnson coming in for Lane, awesome. Tyler Steen coming in for Becton, awesome. The receivers did what they had to do in their limited role. It was remarkable, and it was nice to see, like, that's the generational talent we thought we had with Jalen Carter on full display, where, you're getting multiple media people that are watching film, and they're like, this, no exaggeration, might be the greatest game I've ever seen from an interior defensive lineman. I'm not kidding. We're in terms of just, like, wrecking almost every single play. Like, he had like 19 snaps that were documented as like he directly impacted, as in he beat his man instantly, was getting a quarterback pressure or stopping a run because he just, as if his man was like a 12-year-old out there and just threw him out of the way. And it wasn't a professional offensive lineman. Like, he was that dominant. And
well, that's the thing, is that
it made everyone
the Saints tried to do what the Falcons did the week before, which was run a ton of stretch runs. That's a staple of the Shanahan offense, is the stretch.
Yeah.
We've seen the damage that Kamara has done the first 2 weeks. It's hard to run the stretch when the D tackle is throwing the guard like instantly back, and then you have to, like, Kamara. You saw Kamara, like, you have to like let the play develop in order for
you
it to
take
work.
false steps, and it's
and then he's just cooked. He's just meat in the back.
And listen, maybe the Saints offense was so dominant because they went against two of the softest up front sevens in the Panthers and the Cowboys, but regardless, the Eagles defensive line, Vic Fangio deserves a ton of credit because he did clearly listens to the show. He ran a lot more 5-man fronts. Basically, they ran 5-man fronts almost every play, especially like plays where it wasn't like they have to throw the ball. And
if you would have if they played the Falcons, if they just did that from the start, and they were they were like, okay, we're gonna let Kirk beat us. If we let Kirk beat us,
they should have made that adjustment in the second half, and they didn't. But they ran a ton of 5-man fronts, and Jordan Davis played very, very well. Milton Williams played very, very well. Brandon Graham played very, very well. Josh Sweat played like fine. Bryce Huff didn't do much. On the interception at the end of the game, he was one of 3 Eagles pass rushers to get home. The other guys just had him by like a half a step. Bryce Huff was close a few times. He does get chipped a significant amount, but like the fact that it chipped like totally wipes him out of the play is just not good enough. But we did see his snap count.
But if you watch his Jets tape, like, he was getting, teams were chipping him, double teaming him.
It just didn't matter, right?
It didn't matter.
So his snap count diminished, and I'd honestly be surprised to see that change at this point. The way the Eagles are running, like, they're running Milton Williams on the outside a little bit. They're bringing up Zach Bond. I saw a pretty cool video. It was Vic Fangio shutting down the Shanahan scheme Sunday, and it was him doing it way back in 2018 with the Jared Goff-led Rams when they went into Chicago to take on the Trubisky Bears that won 12 games. They remember that game. It was like both teams were in like the team, super low scoring. The Bears won something like 16-10, something like that, and they shut down the Rams offense that was, playing those shootouts and the high McVay offense. And he did it the same way. A lot of 5-man fronts that he actually would move up a linebacker, and all of a sudden it would become like a 6-man front, and they were totally just kind of dominating the stretch run game. And Fangio, he went back to that well, and it worked again against the similar
Well,
scheme. It was cool to see.
Fangio coached on the Dolphins last year. Mike
Mhm.
McDaniel runs the Shanahan
Oh
scheme.
yeah, you're that. Listen, if he can do one thing and it stopped the Shanahan scheme, my God, like I'm all right.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, dude.
Please, and yeah, Zach Bond
So,
had
I mean,
another awesome game. So.
there's two things we need to kind of talk about.
Yeah, I was getting through all the positives, and then there's some significant negatives.
So, obviously,
yeah.
number one, we're going to save the worst one for last. I'm going to save the worst one for last. The Jalen Hurts interception in the end zone. Smitty, rare route running error by him. Problem was, I'm still going to blame Jalen Hurts for that because he threw it in like around 3 people. Like if it was a one-on-one and like he's on a comeback and he slips and it's a timing route, that's not really Jalen Hurts' fault. But like what you're basically saying is like that's still a bad decision because
I don't know. I'm putting most of the blame on Smith because you look at when he's releasing that ball, if he cuts his route the way he's like supposed to cut it, foot in the ground and break it off, at like the very, very worst, it's an incompletion where like Devonta Smith just has body positioning over Tyrann Mathieu, and maybe he's so small that it just gets knocked down, but it's not getting picked off. Like he totally rounds off that route and allows Mathieu to come and jump it where, you run that route right and it's probably hitting you in the chest right at like the eye in the word Saints in the end zone. But I think you could blame Hurts for wanting to throw that ball when that's a route that's absolutely better suited for a bigger body receiver like A.J. Brown or Dallas Goedert. And obviously running it with Devonta Smith, there's that risk that he's small. But still, if he runs the route right, like that's probably a touchdown more often than not. And where my more so blame with him goes is the fumble. The fumble was inexcusable. And again, it's not like anyone was open. He didn't miss a guy, but
why is he holding it out like a loaf of bread in that instance? Just tuck it under your arm and run with it.
Yeah, and if you're going to be there wasn't really anywhere to run either. You just throw that out of bounds. Just throw it out of bounds. Live to see another down. You just got to be more secure with the ball. Like I think a fingertip hit the football and it dropped. Like you just got to be more secure with that. Like it wasn't like a bear claw on his arm or his hand or anything. Like it was truly the dude's finger. I just think nicked it, and that was enough to get it to slip out of his hand.
Yeah, and it's like it's kind of the knock that he's had since last year is that he's playing hero ball and
a little careless.
And look, last year you could make the justification they needed to do it because the coaching was horrific.
Mm-hmm.
The overall from the offensive coordinator and the head coach. Listen, we talk about the Sirianni plays being worthless and Kellen Moore basically trying to make them salvageable, and he has to a certain extent. That situation wasn't a Sirianni play. That was a broken play where he should have either thrown it away if no one was open, or if he didn't think he'd pick up the first down, just keep moving the ball down the field.
Yeah.
Because the problem that the Eagles have had the last 2 weeks is their red zone offense is just bad. It's just bad, Michael. And there's no reason. And listen, they get a bit of a pass because A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are both hurt. But at the same time, the Buffalo Bills are like the most effective red zone offense. And they have no receivers, Michael. And they still have a competent tight end and a good running back. And Eagles have potentially a better tight end and a way better running back. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
It's just and this is where I go. And now my last talking point, the most biggest issue with the Eagles right now is the head coach and his meddling.
He meddled again on Sunday. And perhaps, it's not perhaps, this is the biggest. It was the end of the first half. There's 13 seconds left, 4th and 1, and they're already in field goal range. You have a timeout left. So your options are
breaking news: Lane Johnson has been ruled out for tonight.
Yeah, I saw that. I was waiting to let it rip. No Lane, no AJ, no Smitty. But your options were either to kick the field goal on 4th and 1 with 13 seconds left, because there's only 13 seconds left.
No timeouts.
No timeouts.
Wait, no, one timeout.
They had one timeout. Yeah, that was the whole point. They had one timeout. You could push it, get the first down, call timeout, and with about 10 seconds left, maybe take a shot at the end zone, maybe one shot, and then kick the field goal regardless. Or C, which is whatever the hell they did, which is trying the fake tush push, which Sirianni will never admit it, but I think his reasoning for it was because he wanted it to break and be a touchdown. He wanted that play to fool the defense and for Saquon Barkley to prance into the end zone untouched because everyone thought the push was coming. And why it was dumb is because they were in a formation that they don't like. There was only one guy behind Hurts, which is never what they do. And Dallas Goedert was on the wing, which is never where he's at, because they wanted him to be like a seal block on the outside.
They basically tipped their hand.
Yeah, and it was they wasted the fake tush push last year, week 3, when they did it against Tampa in the blowout victory on Monday night for no reason. They just ran that play for truly no reason. There was no point in doing so, and they wasted it. Or it was against Washington. Sorry, it was against one of the games. It was pointless on the road that they did it, and they showed their hand with it with Swift, and they kind of just made it obvious to other teams when they do it, and that was just he'll never admit it because he just was oh, I got involved, whatever. But the truth is that he wanted that to go for a touchdown, and he wanted to get credit for oh, what a creative play. Totally fooled the defense, and he just outthought himself, and you were stuffed short. The Saints sniffed it right out. You're asking Grant Calcaterra and other guys to make huge reach blocks on the outside because they knew the push wasn't coming. It was just stupid. You should have just kicked the field goal anyways, because what were you going to do if in the event that he gets it and he didn't score? But that's the whole point. The whole point is that he thought that was a touchdown play. He thought that was going to break and Barkley was going to take it in the end zone. And you were going to be happy day. Wow, what a gutsy call. And it just made him look like an idiot. And then in the second half, when he does go for it on a 4th and 3, which I think they should have gone for it, that's a spot where I'm not against them going for it. On the back of you not going forward in the first half and you're just still haven't scored yet, it makes that decision look so stupid when in reality, I don't think it was a dumb decision. You just didn't execute. But when it's coming off the heels of the actual screw up in the first half, it just compounds everything. It makes everything seem so much worse.
Yeah. And then he attempted a 60-yard field goal.
Yeah. It just
punt it.
It was just very, very.
Punt it. You literally have the second coming of Warren Sapp on your defensive line. Braden Mann can pin them within their own 10-yard line.
Yeah, it's just annoying that it's just inconsistent, and he feels like he has to overcompensate and leave his mark on a game. He's so. People talk about his arrogance and his ego, and it just feels so obvious because it's he needs. After a win, he has no problem taking the blame for his mistakes. They win and he's yeah, I mean, that's all on me. That's not on Kellen. That's me getting involved and me making the play call there, whatever. But then on Monday night against Atlanta, he was a lot more snappy and he was I'm doubling down on my convictions to do with the decisions I made in that 4th down at the end. And it's you just sound like he's so desperate for credit for something good to happen that he is totally outthinking himself and overdoing it because he wants it to work out in his favor.
Well, I mean, Michael, I don't think how many years left are on his contract with the Eagles?
I don't think it matters.
Well, no, the reason I asked that is because if
Sirianni signed a 5-year deal that runs through the 2025 season. Is this year and next year.
So
under contract.
That's why he's overcompensating, because he's coaching for his job, and I think in his mind he feels like he has to basically put his job in the hands of others, and like Kellen Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Basically Kellen Moore, like he has no say on the defense. Like I can't imagine Vic Fangio, like him trying to tell Vic Fangio, a guy that's been coaching defense longer than he's been alive, how to do his job.
Yeah,
right?
No, he
But here's
gets
the thing with Kellen Moore. It's like, listen, dude, like if the conspiracy theory was if they fired Sirianni at some point, Kellen Moore would be the head coach, and because he's a former player, kind of like that whole McDaniel, that whole like young coach, but he played in the NFL too.
Mm-hmm.
So players respect him more because he is a former player in the NFL. Like he gets it. He's not just like a nepo baby, sort of like a Kyle Shanahan or even like a Clint Kubiak, where they only became coaches because of their fathers, kind of deal. So maybe there might be a respect thing there. I mean, the thing with Sirianni that all he needs to do, just let his guys do their thing. Make sure that, everyone's prepared to play on Sunday. And like he has the thing that drives me bonkers is that the Eagles are one of the most analytically driven teams in the NFL.
Like front office wise.
And you wonder he's making these opposite decisions as a middle finger to Howie.
I mean,
because Howie didn't hire him. That was Jeffrey Lurie hired him.
Yeah.
And it's insane to me from Jeffrey Lurie's standpoint, though, that he gives Howie control of everything, but the guy that drives the car. Like, Howie's the one that's built the car, but he can't pick the guy that drives it.
Yeah. It's very
and this might be like, and I think for like Howie, and we know, like, listen, Howie's not infallible. Like we respect Howie. We know Howie's done. He's the best executive in team history. Like that's a fact. You can't dispute that, right?
Yeah.
Like Howie missing on Bryce Huff.
Listen, Howie is an elite at maximizing like space for acquiring as many assets and players as you possibly can. He is so good at the cap manipulation to be able to have as many opportunities as getting good players as possible. We know this is true. He's so good at it. What he's like average at is like player evaluation. He misses on draft picks. He misses on free agent signings from time to time. It just happens. It's what he is. Like it's what he's kind of always been. But you take the good with the bad because he's able to consistently give you opportunities to be right like all the time. It's true. Like he opens it up so that you could pay all these guys, all this sort of stuff. But it's like, Bryce Huff is losing snap counts by the minute, and he still hasn't recorded like a quarterback hit yet.
Yeah, it's like they signed Zach Bond. Great signing. Bryce Huff. It's it's like a give or take. But for from Sirianni's perspective, like they should be 3-0.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether that be Barkley catching, whether that be just being
I'm gonna pull up the box score from the Saints and Eagles game. I'm gonna read you the stats of the Eagles, and I'm gonna read you the stats of the Saints, and then we're gonna have a little we're gonna just have some. You tell me if this is a coaching. If when you look at this, why things happen the way they happened.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Eagles outpossessed the Saints 32 minutes. The Eagles had the ball for 32 minutes and 15 seconds. The Saints for 27 minutes, 45 seconds. Mm-hmm. Total yards, Eagles, 460. Saints, 219.
460 total yards.
Okay. Turnovers, Eagles 2, Saints 1. Mm-hmm. The Hurts one was egregious. The fumble, the
fumble was egregious.
We're split on the interception.
Because I don't my last defense on the interception is like those are the throws that I think fans in ourselves, we want to see Jalen Hurts make like those anticipation, like timing throws over the middle. That it's stuff that we haven't seen from him a ton since he's got here, and it's stuff that we wish he could make those timing throws that we see Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen make over the middle. And he tried it, and the receiver didn't run the route well.
Sorry, Michael, my screen's black. Oh, wait,
You're
never mind.
fine. They tried it, and the receiver didn't run the route well. So I hope it's not discouraging of him to ever try it again.
Every time I move my mouse, my screen goes black.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know what this is. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I've lit my screen. I don't know what the hell is wrong with my computer right now. It's
you can't see anything?
I can't see anything. I literally cannot.
Well, if now is a very good time to just go to the picks and you're just yapping, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's I'm going to treat this like I'm on a phone call, I guess.
It's kind of funny because I see you're looking slightly just confused, but everything's fine on my end.
Hold on. Let me hold on.
Oh. I went closed for a second.
All right, that worked. I just closed my laptop and reopened
that
it.
That worked?
Dude, I don't know. This is such BS, bro.
All right, anyways, let's get to
let's just go to the picks.
Yeah, we're
you want to lead us on all the lines and stuff because of my stuff is not working very well.
So, starting us off, we have the two teams Eagles just played. The New Orleans Saints are on the road to take on the Falcons. The Falcons have yet to win at home. They're 3-point favorites. Public heavy on the Saints with the points. Public slightly favoring the Falcons on the money line. The way I look at these two teams, did the Saints get overrated a little bit after the first 2 weeks? Probably, but at the same time, you did still hang 40 twice, no matter who your opponent is. That is impressive. But the Eagles definitely came with a purpose, feeling like it was a must-win, and dominated them.
I think for the Saints, if you're, I think objectively, you're how did the Eagles go down to New Orleans, where the Saints, I think, in terms of home field advantage, top 3 in pro football.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
The Eagles dominated them. It would make no mistake. The score was what the score was. The Eagles absolutely dominated that entire game on every facet. And I look at the Falcons, tough loss against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. But I still they still haven't given me much to get excited about. Even though they did go toe-to-toe and lost, they are some nonsense away from being 0-3, and it's just the offense hasn't shown me enough. I think it's still going to just take some time for that to get into a rhythm. They should clearly just try to pound Bijan and
Saints are banged. Saints are banged up. Kamara and Olave are questionable.
They are going to play supposedly, but they are banged up. I'm rocking with the Saints though. I think they get back on track against what I think is a softer Falcons team than what the Eagles gave you last week. And I think they'll be able to kind of get the ball on the ground going again and keep Derek Carr from making a mistake like he did at the end of the game against the Eagles. So I'm
going to take Atlanta. I'm going with Atlanta. 1 p.m. First off, 1 p.m. Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think with Atlanta, they should have beaten the Chiefs. They should have won that game, in my opinion.
It was there to win,
and they just didn't take it. When I look at the Saints, I think the Eagles kind of exposed the Saints from the perspective of, if you can beat them at the line of scrimmage, and out muscle them, they could be easily beaten. And this is a big divisional matchup. The Saints are on the road getting 3 points, which, for a divisional game, it's the reverse, right?
It's probably pretty static.
If the Saints were laying 3 on the road, you take the Falcons because that means they're going to win. But now it's the reverse, and usually it means that this Falcons
Pretty
should win
even
this game.
teams. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
So
You're
I'm
taking
going with Atlanta. Yeah, I think this is going to be a Bijan game. I think
I think it has to be.
it feels like he kind of know his role in the offense. And listen, I mean, with the Rams, right, like the McVay offense, you thought he was going to be Todd Gurley. He hasn't really been that yet, and I think we're still expecting that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next game we have is the Indianapolis Colts at home against the Steelers. The Steelers are 2.5-point favorites. They're sitting at 3-0, sitting pretty. The Colts have struggled. Anthony Richardson has struggled since that Texans game where it wasn't a clean game by any means, but he did make some like wow plays. Has been anything but wow.
Yeah, he's been hot garbage.
He's been bad, and yeah. But I will say, looking at the Steelers, what they've done with Justin Fields is, I think, something they should be applauded with, because they've totally transformed how he's playing quarterback. And coaching does matter. This isn't to say that, oh, they're developing Justin Fields and he's going to ascend into the superstardom that people thought he would out of college. Like, no, I don't think he's ever going to reach that. But what I do think he is he's capable of being like that middle of the road quarterback that in the right system can succeed, not given a ton of responsibility, a la Rams era Jared Goff, a la Titans era Ryan Tannehill. Like, those quarterbacks were good and they were a part of good winning teams, and they were winning not in spite of him, not because of him, but they were just doing what they can to help. They were winning by them not turning the ball over and moving the chains and taking what's given to them. Justin Fields has become like a first down, check down quarterback where that first read is you have like one read and then you're coming straight to that check down. You're letting it fly. Sometimes that first read is the check down, and it's letting them get first downs when they need to. Make no mistake, this is not a good offense that the Steelers are running here. They're not lighting up the scoreboard or anything.
Justin Fields blows.
They're just not turning the ball over, and they're making Fields' job a lot easier.
Yeah, congratulations, Michael. Whenever you look at old NFL standings and you're like, how the heck did the Steelers win 12 games in like 1998 with congratulations. You've now you know why, because it's literally the same exact thing. With the exception of is that Jerome Bettis was a better running back than Najee Harris.
Yeah, so they're doing that. They're doing that sort of thing. And I think just that formula and the way, and like their defense is very good. They're going to win like 10, 11 games perhaps. But I do think that they're just kind of due for a loss. I think they're due perhaps for some turnovers on the offensive end. The Colts seemingly are due for like a nice win. Obviously, they won last week in a kind of disgusting fashion. They need to play better in a win, and I think this is a week to get it. So I'm taking the Colts with the points. At home, by the way, I will add, this game is in Indianapolis.
I'm taking the Colts as well. This is kind of like one of my upsets of the week.
Mm-hmm.
I think Anthony Richardson, I don't want to say he's playing for his job. That is not what I'm saying. However, they did look really good last year with Gardner Minshew playing quarterback on offense. You can't and you shouldn't bench Anthony Richardson yet. But, Michael, if he goes out today and throws like 5 picks on that Steeler defense, you can't sit here and say that, they signed Joe Flacco. You saw what Flacco did last year. It's like, F it, throw the ball down the field. I'm just saying, dude, like, he kind of needs to do something today. He needs to ball out. And I think he is going to ball out. I think he's got too much talent and too much good coaching not to be able to. That's another thing, too. Like, we both value Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen is well respected. And this is kind of a big thing I want to go back to. So, 2022, Eagles Steelers at Lincoln Financial Field. Eagles handed the Steelers one of the biggest beatdowns like they've ever experienced on their defense
Yeah.
because of the read option. And the big thing I think we know with Tomlin, Tomlin sometimes set in his ways.
Mm-hmm.
We could see something similar today. Like, am I predicting the Michael Pittman breakout game? Maybe they're paying him $30 million and they're not trying to target him. I don't know, where the coaches, if you're the coaches, you're going to be telling Anthony Richardson, stop trying to force the ball to Alec Pierce every play.
Yeah.
It's the thing with Richardson, I think this is the best way to sum him up, is he can make throws. He can make throws that 99% of quarterbacks can't make.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't make throws that 99% of quarterbacks can make.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still taking the Colts. I think we're going to see an Anthony Richardson breakout game. But I digress. Let's go.
Moving on, we have the Jags and the Texans. So the Texans are 5.5-point favorites at home.
This is bad. This is
bad because
this is bad.
The Texans haven't been able to cover this year. They're 0-3 against the spread. They haven't been really all that inspiring. They got ran all over by the Colts. They obviously got embarrassed by the Vikings last week, and they really flirted with losing to the Bears
at home.
They just don't look great. But at the same time, the Jags look like
T-Law's broken, dude.
Yeah, they look like the most dysfunctional team in football, and it just looks like dead coach walking with Doug. I gotta take the Texans, and Texans minus 5.5, and Doug doesn't have a job tomorrow.
Bro,
I mean, you can't start 0-4.
Bro, senior offensive consultant Doug Peterson on the Eagles is going to be hitting like crack in a couple months, dude.
That would be. I don't need that right now.
Just have him hang around the players. Just have him and Kelsey.
I don't need him around the players. He doesn't know most of these players. He hasn't been around most of these guys.
He's the one that installed Hurts as the starter. He's the one that started it.
That's it.
Hurts would be he's going to do some inspirational quote about Doug, like a lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of sheep or some nonsense. I don't know, dude. I gotta listen. This is going to be a good litmus test if the Jags are a 2-win team, because in a normal and if we're being unbiased here, looking at this objectively, I would take the Jags. 0-3, too much talent to be 0-3. Should win this game. It's a divisional game, but
it's a road divisional game. I don't know. This is a game that in a vacuum they could lose by a field goal, and it would be tough loss, no big deal. But this is massive implications here. This is a must win game.
Because the AFC South again, Michael, the AFC South looks like ass again, dude.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you're the Jags, if you win this game, it's not like you're out of winning the division.
Mm-hmm.
You might need 9 wins to win this division. That's all I'm saying, right? That's the way you kind of have to look at it. But dude, watching the Bills just literally bitch slap them around for 60 minutes, dude.
Mm-hmm.
They just there was a point, Michael, where they're the Bills are straight up running prevent, sending 3 rushers, and then T-Law can't even make the basic check down. He just gets blown up.
Yeah.
That's just that's pathetic. It's pathetic. And if this was at home, I consider taking the Jags. I gotta go with the Texans, dude. I can't. I think you should stay away from this game overall because neither one of these teams is reliable in any way from a betting perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm taking Houston.
Next game we have another. This is another divisional matchup. This one will be interesting. So
one of the classic
Minnesota Vikings are on the road against the Green Bay Packers. Now, This line has swung from Green Bay -4.5 to 2.5. Jordan Love
Is healthy.
is expected to play. He showed up to the field wearing a Brett Favre jersey.
Does that mean he's going to turn over 5 times today,
Yeah,
Michael?
what does that mean?
Well, it's because Brett Favre got diagnosed with
No, I
Parkinson's.
know.
And,
I think I'm going with Green Bay. Like as good as the Vikings have been, and as like terroristic as their defense has been, and it kind of looks like that.
It's like a chaos defense. You don't know where anyone is.
Yeah, their second down blitz rate is like 60%, which is just beyond. You don't know what's coming. It is chaos. It's hell for quarterbacks. But I'd be damned to say that Matt LaFleur isn't fully preparing, Jordan. Like Matt LaFleur is an extremely good coach. He's one of the best in the league. What he was able to do with the Malik Willis-led offenses, being able to put up points the way that they were. He makes the jobs of the quarterbacks easier. And I think today is no excuse. They understand the gravity of how important today is. And listen, Darnold has been awesome. Deserves a lot of credit. Kevin O'Connell deserves a lot of credit. But I don't know. It just feels like the Vikings are due for a loss that isn't really going to shock anybody's core. Like, Xavier McKinney's got leading the league in picks with Green Bay now. Maybe he picks one off of Darnold and they turn the ball over.
Do you remember when I a few minutes ago when you were talking about the Steelers and Justin Fields, and I made the comparison that they're like the Cordell Stewart era Steelers.
Yeah.
Good receivers, decent tight end, decent running backs, quarterback that can't throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, Michael. Now you know what the late 90s Minnesota Vikings are now. Literally, reject quarterback, insane weapons, great defense. You now know what those teams are like now. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with the Vikings have been the one team that has given the Packers problems in the NFC North, right? Now they have Jordan Love. I'm going with Green Bay. I do expect a flat spot at some point from the Minnesota Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
From their defense and from Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to see Love ball out today. Because he kind of has to, because they lose. He kind of choked it a little bit against the Eagles in Brazil. Then he gets hurt.
Yeah, I mean, listen, what are you getting at here?
He needs to play well, because if he goes out and throws 4 picks, and then the backups played well the last 2 games, then what you're going to have is you're just going to have if I'm the Packers, if I was a Packers fan and Jordan Love doesn't play well, do I really want to have to go on Twitter and see idiots like Nick Wright and Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith go, well, Malik Willis, is better than Jordan Love.
Yeah, but
do I really want to hear that?
No, but as a player, it doesn't matter. You got to play well because you want to, there's no.
He's the leader of the damn team. He's the quarter. He's the guy you just paid $1 bazillion to.
Yeah.
He has the ball out. Though I do find it interesting. I do find it interesting that they have Aaron Jones on the Vikings now, and he's licking his chops, because I think when you look at how Aaron Jones's stats, I think he's done better than. Has he done better than Josh Jacobs?
Yeah, I mean Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, he has.
Disappointing. Yeah, Josh Jacobs has been disappointing.
So yeah, this might be.
So you're going with Green Bay then?
I am going with Green Bay. Their defense though has been good too. No one's brought up how they've since the Eagle game that they've done much better on D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next game we have.
Oh Jesus.
The Cincinnati Bengals, a couple of cats. The Bengals are on the road against the Panthers. Andy Dalton.
I saw someone call this the Cat Bowl. I prefer to call this the litter box.
Yeah, this is the litter box, because the Panthers are 5-point underdogs
at home.
at home. Obviously they won last week. Like, it was just so clear
Well,
that
that Raiders team is like
yeah,
a
but it
joke.
just
But go ahead.
Andy Dalton played well, and like I don't know, I saw from miles. It was such the vibes. The Bengals, the Bengals have a problem, and the problem is Zach Taylor, because the Cincinnati Bengals, similar to the Giants, valuing positional value and stuff by not keeping DJ Reader, not keeping Joe Mixon, not keeping Jesse Bates. Those areas of their game have become a little bit weaker, and
Well, letting Joe Mixon go, I think, is acceptable, but letting DJ Reader and Jesse Bates go was stupid. But go ahead.
regardless, you let them all go, and you look at how the Bengals operate. They operate like it's 3 years ago. They still try to run a bunch of vertical routes and down the field, and when teams running a lot more too high, that is just difficult to succeed against. Obviously, they had success against Washington because their secondary is the worst in football by miles. And it's, you still have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, so you'll be able to find some success, but like sustaining success on drives, it's a little more difficult. I feel like they need a new coach to kind of open up the playbook a little bit.
Dude, they need a new owner, man. Like, first
Well,
off,
yeah,
did you
but
see, like, do you ever watch videos of them having to walk across a busy street to
yeah,
get
to
to
get
the practice facility?
yeah, to get to like practice and whatever.
They're just a cheap organization. That's why they let all these guys go. That's why Jamar Chase is like, I want to get paid, and everyone's kind of giving him crap for it. But what he wants is the signing bonus, the actual liquid cash upon signing. That's what he wants. The Bengals are a horrendously cheap organization, and like they gave Burrow all that money, so they're
Listen,
justified.
bad organizations stay bad for a reason, and the Bengals are a joke of an organization.
Well, let's just talk about. I mean, let's talk about the setup here. Andy Dalton, longtime Bengal quarterback, got basically got thrown into the trash in favor of Joe Burrow, which look was the smart football move. Let's not act like it wasn't, But former QB revenge tour. They never should have effing cut me. I don't think that's Andy Dalton's philosophy.
No, I don't think it is at
But
all.
if you don't think his teammates are telling him, like, dude, we want you to beat these guys so bad just for you, man, because they grew up watching him play quarterback for the Bengals, his teammates.
Yeah, you look at this game, and the Bengals, I mean, they're 0-3. Obviously, they need a win in the worst way ever. And it's like, the Panthers do stink. Like, we can't make a mistake. They are bad. They're very bad, actually. They're
Their
terrible.
defense hung in against the Chargers. It's just that Bryce Young was so horrible. And
Yeah, but even the Chargers, we know they have no weaponry on
I
them.
mean, here's the thing: is that the Bengals' defense needs to show up today. Obviously, they had probably one of the worst performances I've seen a defense have. When you consider they let a rookie quarterback have a perfect game against them,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, like they like the. We'll talk about the Commanders later,
Mm-hmm.
but like that's just pathetic. And I mean, I don't know. The whole vibe of the team is that Zach Taylor's getting canned because you saw someone go to T. Higgins and ask him about fantasy football, and he said, "Yo, don't start me in fantasy football, man."
Yeah, I mean,
Like he doesn't want to be there either.
So regardless, I'm taking the Bengals. They need a win, and I do trust the team that's just significantly more talented.
Doesn't this look like the game that's going to screw everyone on their survivor pools?
I mean, I think people might have already lost on the Bengals on that. Like, I think they got screwed on their survivor pools week 1. Honestly, like, I think
it's that or that Jags Texans game.
I think everyone that picked that would pick the Bengals today already picked the Bengals week 1, and they already.
I'm taking the Panthers today, Michael. I'm taking the Panthers. I'm taking them because I don't trust Zach Taylor.
I don't. He's horrible.
Dave Canales, I think, is a better. Like the vibe of the whole Panthers team was just different with Andy Dalton. I just couldn't. I can't explain it. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. Like we'll see. I think it's going to be a high scoring game, and like the Bengals, like Cameron Taylor Britt, they're just arrogant for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next game we have Rams Bears in Chicago. Bears are 3-point favorites, which feels steep. I understand it's the hospital team of the Rams, but the Bears are a joke, and they're an entire joke because of Shane Waldron. He is an absolute moron.
I said this to you before.
Yeah, he's terrible, and he's like completely holding back anything that they could get going on offense because all he does is call screens, but they suck. They're bad screens that aren't set up well. Like there's a lack of preparedness looking from the offensive line. First play of the game, they run a screen and two offensive linemen are running into each other. And it's like, dude, like this is the first play of the game and you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. And it's like that's on coaching, man. Like that is not getting your guys ready to go.
Well, that's what happened. I mean, when you watch the Seahawks offense last year, and you see the Seahawks offense this year, I say that because of Shane Waldron was their OC last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like you sent me the clip of Geno Smith, like looking way better.
Yeah.
Like
it's
coaching. It's coaching. He sucks
because and why they're so dumb and why they're such an awful organization too, and reason why they haven't won anything in 100 years is because
they could have hired Clint Kubiak.
This is just what they've done.
He was in there to interview. They let him go without an offer.
This is what they've done the last three quarterbacks. Like Mitchell Trubisky, he gets drafted and they have John Fox. Rookie year, fire John Fox, hire Matt Nagy. Justin Fields, rookie year, has Matt Nagy. Second year, fire Matt Nagy, hire Matt Eberflus. Caleb Williams, draft him. Matt Eberflus, rookie year. What are they going to do after the season? Matt Eberflus, bye. Shane Waldron, bye. You're firing your two whatevers, and next year you're going to have to redo it. It's just, this is the stupidest cycle ever by trying to have like basically a dead man walking head coach, lame duck head coach, the rookie year of each of your last three top drafted quarterbacks. It's just dumb. That is stupidity. It's never going to work out. You're setting up
I'll say this,
quarterbacks for failure.
Ben Johnson not going to the Commanders now, like if they are desperate for a head coach, he's got the Bears by the balls.
He's got the Bears by the ball. It just
got him by the balls because now he could say, "How about $15 million a year?" And were the Bears going to say no? Like
you got to do it, yeah. So I'm taking the Rams just because I'm trusting McVay, even coming off a big win against the Niners. I'm trusting McVay to be able to put together enough of a scheme because I just don't think they're going to need to score many points because the Bears offense can't get out of their own way.
I'm going to go. I agree with everything you just said about the Bears, by the way, but I'm taking the Bears today, laying the 3 at home for a couple reasons. One, whenever these teams, remember football, a team has like a miracle come from behind win, which is what it was.
Listen, ebbs and flows, totally.
Right? A miracle. It's like you get that experience of joy. They beat the Niners, their rival. Now you got to go to Chicago in not so pleasant weather, most likely, to play a Bears team that's been like licking their wounds and haven't really shown up yet. Listen, DeAndre Swift's basically going to be riding the pine, dude, and he's just been literal hot garbage. They're going to play Roshan Johnson, who's got some juice to him. They still got weapons on offense. Keenan Allen should be playing today. Like, there's only so much Sean McVay can do smoke and mirror wise with like his, like, literally his preseason team. There's only so much he can do. And like this is like a Caleb Williams needs to ball out and show why he's the first overall pick. And we know how talented he is. It's his team that he was. Did he grow up in LA? Caleb Williams? Is he from that area?
Yes, he's from
So this is like the team he grew up, like when I say grow up, I mean the team that he watched pro football. Right? I'm sure he wants to bring it a little bit today against the Rams. Kind of show him.
Listen, I'm not doubting his competitive spirit. It's just he's not calling the plays.
Let's go. True. Well,
Yeah. Next game we have the Nathaniel Hackett revenge game. The Denver Broncos are on the road against the Jets. Jets are 7.5-point favorites. The
Jets
Broncos,
defense are a bunch of. It's like demon mode when they're at home.
Yeah, the Broncos are coming off a nice road victory against the Buccaneers. It was good, but
We talk about ebb and flows.
Yeah, it was just the Broncos defense cooking. Surtain was awesome, and I expect him to kind of do the same sort of jail to Garrett Wilson as he did to Mike Evans. But unlike the Buccaneers, the Jets actually can run the ball. They actually have a good running backs. Their two running backs are probably both better than Rashad White. So I'm taking the Jets minus 7.5. I think Rodgers is like 8-0 against rookie quarterbacks in his career too. Like there's some sort of stat like that as well. The Jets defense should tee off against Bo Nix and the Broncos.
Yeah, I feel like the long-term tank strategy for the Broncos to get Arch Manning might
Is that what this is?
I think it's going to be in effect real soon because his uncle used to play for the Broncos. I'm sure he, still like works around there. And I don't know, bro, like if your uncles were Eli and Peyton Manning, won't you feel like grateful, like about like kind of like you're going to be guided where you're going to go sort of,
Listen, everyone says coaching matters. So,
here's the thing though, dude, like Bo Nix against this Jets defense, like this is not going to end well.
No, it really should not end.
Right. And I feel like we need to see Breece Hall break out. Big thing is Garrett Wilson breaking out. Now, Patrick Surtain, Pete the second on Garrett Wilson. He's probably going to lock him down. Alan Lazard's a plus 250 to get a touchdown catch today, Michael. What are your thoughts on anytime touchdowning if you were to do one for him?
I mean, would that be 3 straight games with a touchdown for Alan Lazard? Or is it
because everyone's just bracketing Garrett Wilson. He's like wide open like most of the time.
No, it wouldn't be. So he scored week 1. He did not score week 2. Or sorry, I'm looking at this wrong way. He scored twice week 1, did not score week 2, and then scored last week.
Like Mike Williams looks like a corpse out there.
Yeah, right. Rodgers does like Mike Williams. Listen, I think it's a fair play. I mean, Lazard odds, like they used to be at plus like 600 to score a touchdown. So the fact that it's up there is clearly, they believe in something. And I think it's fair. It was like so obvious that they were trying to force Garrett Wilson to get a touchdown last week against the Patriots on Thursday night. Like, even though Christian Gonzalez had him in jail the whole game, they were making it a point. They were like, we need him to score, and they got it. So I feel like they're not going to do that twice in a row unless maybe it's already over and they just want to do it. But yeah, I like Lazard there. So we're both going the Jets. Skip the Eagle game for last. On to the 4 o'clocks.
This used to be an NFC East match.
We have another
East matchup.
Revenge game here. We have the Cliff Kingsbury revenge game. On the road, the Commanders head to Arizona, take on the Cardinals. Cardinals are 3.5-point favorites. The Commanders are running still yet a college offense. However, that is just making the job of Daniels easier. Where he looks awesome. He looks really, really good. They finally opened up some of those deep plays, which is what he was best at in college, was the deep balls down the sideline, and obviously dropped the dagger touchdown in there to Terry McLaurin. That was while getting smoked. He just totally dropped in the bucket. He's looked good. He's looked decisive. They're calling, he has extremely, extremely high amounts of completions behind the line of scrimmage. And listen, if it's working, it's working. You're getting him comfortable. You're getting him, comfortable with the speed of the NFL, just getting the ball out quickly, trying not to have.
He started 85 games in college. It's not like this. He's played he's not like Trey Lance where he played.
No, but you're getting him used to NFL reps and stuff. And I think even though it's still a college-like offense, it is finding success because you're getting the ball out quick, and the screen schemes are significantly better than, say, a team like the Bears, who are still running a ton of screens, but they go terribly wrong. The Commanders are running screens, but they're actually doing well with them. So, yeah, their offense looks pretty good. The Cardinals' offense still looks very good. I think they got totally hosed against the Lions with that 2-minute warning call. The ball was clearly being snapped as the 2-minute warning hit, and they always let that go. But for whatever reason, they blew it dead as soon as it was a pick six going the other way for the Cardinals against the Lions. I digress.
Yeah, that's another like officiating.
Yeah, that's totally just like
Fugazi. The league is
but,
rigged. Whatever.
Yeah. So both teams' offenses are good. I like both teams to score. Both teams' defenses at the same time, I think, are not good. I do think the Cardinals is like decently better though. So I will be taking the Cardinals minus 3.5.
I'm taking the Cardinals as well, Michael. I feel really good this week about Maserati Marv. Like,
Cooking.
Oh yeah, because I said this to somebody at work the other day about like kind of him and Malik Neighbors. I said to them, I'm like, I feel like in 2 years we're gonna have like debates like between him and Neighbors about who the best receiver in football is. Like when people would debate like, is Randy Moss or T.O. better?
Right.
You know, there's compelling arguments.
They're both freaks.
Obviously, like right now, Neighbors is because he's being targeted so heavily. But Michael, like, Emmanuel Forbes sucks. He's a bust. He blows.
I mean, he didn't even play on Monday, and Jamar Chase was still cooking.
That's what I'm saying.
Doesn't matter.
Like he's going to cook today.
Yeah.
And I think we might see a little bit of a letdown for Jalen Daniels. When I say a letdown, I mean he's not going to achieve a perfect passer rating and have more touchdowns and incompletions. I think you're going to see like a normal game, and I think that's going to be big trouble for the Commanders because even though they're 2-1, they're probably the most surprising 2-1 team in pro football right now.
Just based off their schedule, like they had no business beating the Bengals on Monday, but the Bengals defense was terrible. So,
but I think this Commanders defense is still rank, and even though Jaden Daniels is really exciting, listen, Cliff Kingsbury, I mean, they're limited with their weapons on offense. And like Terry McLaurin's very inconsistent too. Like, let's call a spade a spade. Like, we all talk about all the different quarterbacks he's had. He's not an elite receiver. He's a good number 2 receiver.
Yeah, he's good. He's like a low tier 1, I think. I do think he's good, but I don't know. It just he's had success with guys. I think they're going to make it more of a point. Like Cliff Kingsbury said, like we got to, after week 2, he was like, we need to make it a point to get Terry more involved. And even before the big play, he still wasn't totally involved, but I still think he's trying to make it a point to get the ball to his top receiver.
I don't think Eckler's playing today.
Like shocking. I guess that makes a difference. Next game we have is the Patriots 49ers.
This could be another survival pool destroyer.
This is no longer total hospital squad for the Niners. Debo and Kittle are expected to play today.
So you're saying I should not flex Jawan Jennings and find someone else?
Perhaps. The Niners are.
Hold on, I'm opening up my phone, by the way. I need to do something.
The 49ers are 10.5-point favorites at home against the New England Patriots. Yeah, so the Patriots, like, they're the only team that's not playing the rookie. They're letting them sit behind Brissett, and perhaps for good reason, because their offensive line really is terrible. Brissett does get killed. So I think they do say that they're planning on letting Drake May become the starter at some point, maybe when the defense is weaken up a little bit on their schedule. I don't know what that plan.
It could be today, bro.
Listen, I think they're waiting for a time.
Like they might just literally decapitate Jacoby Brissett.
Right, like I think they're waiting for a time where it's like they're down big at half, and it's like, okay, like we're gonna make the switch coming out of half. And
Well, like Jacoby Brissett, like he's had an interesting NFL career. Like when he was on the Browns, the year they got the creep, but he was suspended for the first 12 games.
mhm,
All of his teammates loved and respected him,
he's
and
very well respected in the league.
he's a very high football IQ, very good teammate. He's a very good like mentor for Drake May, where like you sort of wanted to like kind of have him when you're sitting him not to protect him necessarily from getting sacks because at some point he's going to have to play. And unless the Patriots magically find two all pro offensive linemen, he's going to still have that O line problem.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be fixed overnight.
yeah.
I think you just want him to sort of learn how to be a pro quarterback by having him watch someone else where that's,
The
look at
defense
Jordan
is
Love.
also like after this week, they play the Dolphins, Texans, Jaguars. Then they play the Jets again. But then, so after that Jet game, they go Titans, Bears, Rams, Dolphins, Colts, Cardinals, Bills, Chargers, Bills again. The defense is definitely lighting up towards the end of the schedule. Which, if that offensive line is still going to be terrible, at least you're not going up against like all pro.
If you're going to start Drake May, you need to get him at least a couple games before the Bills game. You don't want to throw him out there versus the Bills.
No, and that's not Tulsa, and they will. So yeah, so I'm going with the Niners minus 10.5. I think this is like a desperate need to get right situation for them. Coming off that really, really tough loss, which I'll say on the road, I guess, but that stadium's like 85% Niner fans in SoFi when they're a road.
What are your thoughts on the expertly clipped photo of Sean McVay patting Kyle Shanahan on the head?
It's exactly what it is. It's truthfully, they have similar flaws, I will say. They both
They have the exact same flaws. It's just
Yeah.
that one guy keeps coaching against a generational quarterback where like McVay went against like Burrow. Like, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, they're their own. They make their own mistakes. It was funny.
I mean, so like I don't know, dude. Like do you know who Grant Cohn is? He's like the
Yeah.
49er reporter. I actually quote tweeted him because he tweeted out basically like the Niners need to stop featuring Kyle Juszczyk so much and be like everybody else in the NFL and use a second tight end.
Yeah.
And he got all these hate comments about it, and I was like, I quote tweeted him and said, "This is like the equivalent of telling your dad to stop using a VCR."
Yeah.
And he actually liked the tweet. So like,
like it's true. Like it works. I mean, I don't like abandon the fullback or whatever, but like I don't know. I don't think their fullback usage is why the offense gets in ruts. I think their limited quarterback plus of your star players.
Well, according to Greg Cosell, he says a lot of people in NFL circles not only consider Purdy way better than Hurts, but he's an elite quarterback, Michael.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, when the elite weaponry is not around, there's some issues out there. I wouldn't necessarily put the blame on him last week, but I just think it's like, there's limitations, and they're not getting McCaffrey back.
Here's the thing, though. I want to bring up though in this game, which I find interesting. If you're the Patriots and you want to win this game, you're gonna instead of putting Christian Gonzalez on Ayuk. We don't know how much Debo is going to play in this game. He's coming off a calf injury. He's very much an east-west runner. He's got to run a lot on a bad calf. I don't know how much he's going to play. If Jawan Jennings is like their only like non-injured / competent receiver, what would you do if you just put him, Christian Gonzalez, on Jawan Jennings and then force Purdy to throw to a lackadaisical, not ready to play?
Yeah, what I'm doing is I'm putting Christian Gonzalez on Brandon Ayuk to start the game, try to get him out of the game, like get him frustrated, get him, whatever, Yeah, clearly there's a lot of things just going
Wearing the
on.
wrong shorts.
Right, like not wearing the right shorts to practice, and
Is that huge? Is that a huge deal though? Like,
it's just like it's a little thing that it's like you're not above the team. Everyone else is wearing black shorts out there. You wear black shorts. You are on the team. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care who you are. Everyone does it. It's a team thing. You wearing red shorts thinks like you can do whatever you want. Like I don't know. Like that's what that is.
or he's
So
just not prepared.
eh, same thing. Not prepared, thinking you're a little bit better than everybody else, and it's just that doesn't bode well. And good for Shanahan for being like, dude, like take off your shorts and put on black ones. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like that's just this is what it is. And he said that Ayuk, but yeah, I'd have Christian Gonzalez get him out there, frustrate him early, and then depending on how the game goes, how every other receiver is looking, I'll leave him on there if I feel I need
By the
to.
way, this Niner defense, it's not good.
No, it's definitely one of their worst iterations.
No, I think it is the worst one
Yeah.
because Brandon Staley, he was not calling the plays. That's the one thing I found interesting. He's not calling the plays.
Hmm.
He's the D coordinator, but like I think like their linebackers coach is calling the defensive plays. Like it's really weird.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know, but their defense, it's very reliant on the linebackers, and without Dre Greenlaw and whatever, it's like their defensive line. This is their worst iteration of the defensive line, and their defensive line was never like amazing.
Out.
It was always just like, you had Nick Bosa and then everyone else. Where if the defensive line isn't great, you're missing one of the all pro linebackers. And the secondary's always been like solid. It makes it hard where it's like a good defensive game is kind of almost solely based on if Fred Warner is playing like an absolute freak. And like that's just hard to
Well,
rely
yeah,
on.
when you run a 4-2-5 front and you're missing one of your linebackers and your defensive line just isn't stout, it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's hard to stop the run and just do anything. So yeah, I'm still taking the Niners though. I do think that New England, they're just kind of rolling around until Drake May is
I'm
coming.
going to take the Patriots, Michael. I'm taking New England.
All right. New England plus 10.5. Next game we have the Browns and the Raiders. Browns are 2.5-point favorites on the road. This is a gross game. Like it's pretty split 50-50 on the spread. It's slight favorite to the Browns on the money line. Like the Browns, oh man, like their offense is still just stuck in the mud. Obviously, they won, um, the Jags game, but we know what the Jags are all about. And obviously, like you went and lost at home to the Giants. They're not able to score points. They're physically incapable of scoring points. 17, 18, and 15 points through 3 weeks. Not totally inspiring there. Gardner Minshew seemingly is like playing for his job at this point, and Myles Garrett's been kind of banged up. I think I'm going with the Raiders at home. It's just such an ugly game that I don't really have faith in either team, so I'll just take the home underdog.
Are we gonna hear about this meeting between the NFL and the newest accuser for Deshaun Watson? That was 2 weeks ago.
I did not see that.
Because the reason why I mentioned that is that if like this if the video they have like gets leaked to the public,
Mm-hmm.
which if you're the person, the accuser slash victim, potential victim,
Mm-hmm.
what if you just leaked it on Twitter and it's just him being, a complete sicko?
Yeah.
Like we saw it with Ray Rice. They tried to like let him play, and then the video came out of him punching his wife and then dragging
Her
her
at the
by
elevator.
the hair like a caveman. And then his career ended after that because it was
Mm-hmm.
on video.
Mm-hmm.
Like the reason why I say that is because there's already rumblings that if Watson has a bad game today, Jameis is the quarterback. Apparently, everyone in the locker room in Cleveland, they respect Jameis. They love Jameis's like infectious attitude. You know, you saw what the juice that a 39-year-old dad gave them last year when he came off his couch.
Yeah,
You
like it's one of those things where I think the Browns have really urged to their players, like, please do not say anything bad about Deshaun Watson. Because anytime you hear anyone talk about him in media, it's always like, yeah, like, oh, we got his back, like that sort of thing. And like no one really asks about like the accusations and how that affects it. But it's like no one's going to war really sticking their neck out defending Deshaun Watson. Like it's a casual, like, yeah, that's our teammate, that's our quarterback. Like that's just kind of what it is. Where it feels like they all kind of feel a way of, I don't like this guy and I don't want him to be my quarterback, but I have been advised to not start spewing that. And it feels like when he gets off the team, you'll start getting guys to say more things like, yeah, I mean, there was just a lot of distractions we've had here recently, and it's nice that we don't have that anymore, like stuff like that. So I'm sure quietly they say to Stefanski or the front office, like, man, we can't have this or whatever. But
this is also the Amari Cooper revenge game.
Jesus, is it revenge of
So,
the Raiders?
Amari
Like,
Cooper apparently. This is what Amari Cooper said about Deshaun Watson. You
oh,
ready?
yeah.
Quote, it's football at the end of the day. Some plays you're going to make, some plays you aren't going to make. I assume that's what they're getting at. It's like anybody else who has a job. Some of y'all don't ask the best questions, but hey, you don't hear me criticizing. But it's just the nature of the business. Obviously, we get scrutinized more than you guys do. I think maybe you also start asking questions in front of the camera so they can see y'all's faces. I think he's implying that he's actually kind of defending Deshaun Watson, basically like them going on Twitter and saying stuff as opposed to just flat out just asking. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Amari, what do you think about the newest accusation for against Deshaun Watson?
It's just like it's almost like I don't know if it's a defense, but it's just like shedding light that it's like we're just not talking about it, and it's weird for whatever reason we're not talking about it.
Or like we know this guy's probably a creep. We just have to
Mhm.
deal with it because I'm
Yeah,
at I need to still do my job, my own job at the end of the day.
yeah,
Yeah, but I'm gonna take the Browns because, dude, like Michael, like the memes are out. Devontae Adams is week to week with the hamstring pull.
hmm
There's only one cure for that hamstring, Michael. It's called being traded to the Jets.
yes, yes,
And if Devontae Adams, who was integral in their win over the Ravens, isn't playing, I think that's going to bleed to that whole team.
yeah. I mean, if Adams not playing is difficult, and I don't know.
Are you
I'm still
familiar with Ray Rhodes at all, Michael?
like, yeah, enough. Yeah,
Do you know why Ray Rhodes kind of got fired by the Eagles
I
besides
do.
winning 3 games?
No.
It's because he was like Antonio Pierce. He was this like psycho who would like hype up his team to play, but eventually it would get old.
Yeah. That definitely loses its luster as soon as you start losing some games for sure.
And I think that's just what's happening right now in Vegas.
So you're taking the Browns then?
I'm taking the Browns.
All right. Next game we have is the Chiefs Chargers 4:30.
Free Derwin James.
Yeah, we got to get moving. We're late here.
Yeah.
So the Chargers are 7.5-point underdogs at home. Herbert is very, very just not 100% healthy. Like he's very
not
banged up.
playing this game, in my opinion.
Yeah, like probably not. The Chiefs, they haven't had an offensive game in the regular season where they look like, what we're used to. It really, I'm so honest, it really looks like they just kind of mess around in the regular season. Because we saw in the playoffs, like they locked in and did what they had to do. But it's
they were like, great offensively in the playoffs, dude.
No, but last year was definitely like,
yeah, you had the best defense in pro football.
Yeah, you were able to lean on that or whatever. But they were able to go on drives when they had to go on drives. You look at just the way Travis Kelce's just not really involved, and he's probably just kind of conditioning himself up, and they know he doesn't want to take the hits or whatever. I mean, he had like a historic postseason last year. Like I don't think he's that physically cooked as much as it's just like his body can't handle a full regular season number one target workload. so they barely use them, and they get by with what they got to get by. The way this game looks like to me is that the Chargers just have very little offensive firepower at all, and it would behoove the Chiefs to kind of move the ball on offense and, basically just blow them out. Like, they should blow them out, and I think they will.
God, when was the last time the Chargers beat the Chiefs?
Didn't they beat them last year? Or, I know the one game was 2018 or 19, where they went for 2. Whoa, that's weird. So the home team has lost plenty of times. The Chargers, yeah, they beat the Chiefs. Ugh, this is such a weird looking website. What the hell does this mean? Oh no, the Chiefs won last year twice. Why is the L? So last time the Chargers beat the Chiefs, I think, was 2021. Yeah, 2021 was the last time the Chargers beat the Chiefs. So there you go.
I mean, I'm just gonna pick Kansas City because the NFL clearly is just they're being so blatant about this three-peat. It's literally, it's disgusting. It's legitimately disgusting, dude.
All right, next game we have Sunday night. Good game here. The Buffalo Bills taking on the Baltimore Ravens. In Baltimore, the Ravens are 2.5-point favorites, coming off a nice win against Dallas. They still can't close games. Even against Dallas, they were up 25 points. They were up 22 points in the fourth quarter or whatever, and they almost let it slip through their fingers. But Lamar Jackson eventually did just step up and close the door himself. The Ravens... I'll start with the Bills. Bills look great. Bills look awesome. Josh Allen looks like the MVP. They've totally revamped the offense, where they're spreading the ball around. No one's really getting favored. Maybe a slight favor like Khalil Shakir, but that's about it. They're really utilizing James Cook, who's clearly their second best offensive player. Von Miller looks fully back after looking cooked / whatever last year.
Yeah, he belongs in prison, but keep going.
Yeah, he does, but he's teeing off this year. The Bills look really good. Baltimore, they do look good. They're still able to kind of do what they want, especially if they're able to kind of run the ball, get Derrick Henry involved. It really opens things up like they did against Dallas. Yeah, this is a good game. I really don't know who's going to win this one. I think I'm just going to take Baltimore as they're a good team that needs to get a second big win, and Buffalo, it wouldn't kill them to lose this game. So I'm taking Baltimore.
2 former Andy Reid disciples.
Right.
I'm taking Baltimore as well. I think in the Cowboy game, they kind of discovered their identity a little bit on offense, which is good. This is sort of John Harbaugh's on the hot seat because I don't know if he's just telling everybody in the fourth quarter to get your foot off the accelerator and not just demolish these teams like the Cowboys or the Raiders, for example, both not good teams. We don't they probably should have beaten the Chiefs. Yeah, I'm going to take the Ravens. Like you kind of said, this is kind of they need to win this game. And I feel like the Bills have they're going to have a flat spot somewhere.
Right.
On the road, in prime time in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of feels like it. So yeah, I'm going with the Ravens.
Yeah. All right. We have another double header on Monday night.
Oh, boy.
First one we have Will Levis and the Titans on the road to take on Tyler Huntley and the Miami Dolphins. They gave Huntley the nod, which is good. I think that just Huntley is absolutely capable. We've seen him win a couple games. We've seen him talk about, Bengals slander. We've seen him almost and should have led the Ravens to a road playoff victory in Cincinnati if he did not screw up a quarterback sneak at the very end. Totally changed the complexion of that game, obviously, with the touchdown the other way. I'm taking the Dolphins -2.5. The Titans look lost. They look terrible. Brian Callahan is a product of Zach Taylor, and the product of Zach Taylor is terrible. Will Levis maybe didn't make any mind-boggling turnovers last week, but he still did not look good.
I mean, he got teabagged by Lucas Van Ness. That looked
Right.
bad.
Right. And he did throw a pick six. It just all was bad. So yeah, I'm taking the Dolphins. I think Huntley's gonna make it a point like I need to get the ball to Tyreek Hill because I know that Tyreek Hill is
Oh, I'm
the player on
Stu.
the team.
I
And they're
think.
gonna force feed Achane.
Well, no, I think you're going to see a lot of read option in this game, kind of like what the Packers were doing with Malik Willis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, take advantage of Snoop Huntley's legs a little bit, and we know that he's capable of throwing the ball.
Yeah.
I'm taking the Dolphins as well. Like this, I mean, Tyreek Hill right now is like probably one of the, like, because of like the situation and like what's going on with him. Like he's kind of like a bust right now in fantasy. You probably took him like in the top 3.
Yeah, no, it's the first round of fantasy football is another joke at this point. McCaffrey, awful. Tyreek Hill, not great. CeeDee Lamb, underwhelming. And that kind of just like Bijan, okay. Brees Hall, strong. But like AJ Brown hurt. Amon-Ra has not been, guaranteed. You weren't taking enough people didn't take Jefferson high enough to feel good about it. You're left with like Saquon Barkley's been the best guy out there and taken in like the back end of the first round. So the top like 5 picks have definitely been
Yeah, give me the Dolphins. I think we might. I mean, I think they might bench him for Mason Rudolph.
Mm-hmm. Next game we have here, this will be a good one. The later Monday night game. The Seattle Seahawks are on the road against the Detroit Lions. Lions are 3.5-point favorites. I'll tell you right now, I'm taking the Seahawks plus 3.5. The Lions have not shown me anything. I'm so uninspired by the Lions at this point. They're running the ball still well. Jahmyr Gibbs and Dave Montgomery are doing plenty enough. Jared Goff has just not looked great. He has not been consistently just hitting the throws like he usually does, and they're having trouble getting some of their guys involved. And their offense has just been kind of underwhelming at this point. But then you look at the Seahawks on the other side, they get back Kenneth Walker tomorrow. Geno's looked awesome. Geno Smith has looked very, very good. Their receivers have looked very, very good as well. Their offense is just kind of cooking, and I don't know if, the Lions offense at this point, they're not cooking. I don't know if they're going to.
It sucks they just paid Jared Goff, but like they spent a 3rd rounder on Hendon Hooker,
Mm-hmm.
who would have probably gone in the 1st round if he didn't blow his knee out, like his senior year, whatever his last year at Tennessee.
Right.
The fact that they like gave him Goff that huge extension and not even thought about Hooker one bit basically tells me that he sucks.
Right.
Hendon Hooker sucks. So the calls to bench Goff for Hooker probably not going to happen because he sucks. If they think he was good, he'd probably be the quarterback by now. Let's be realistic.
Right.
Yeah, damn, man. I mean, I'm taking the Seahawks as well. I need to see more from Goff to buy into him because Geno, I was wrong about their OC. Like the last 2 games, they've done a very good job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, last game we had the Eagles on the road against Tampa. It's going to be like 100 degrees down there. 104 is going to be like the feels like temperature with the craziness of the hurricane. Eagles are very injured. No AJ Brown, no Devontae Smith, no Lane Johnson.
The
Buccaneers are also very, very injured. The Eagles are 1-point favorites. The line moved down 0.5 point after Lane was confirmed out. I'm going to take the Eagles -1. I do think they have somewhat of a formula offensively, and with the bye week coming, I think they're not going to be super shy with leaning on Barkley. What I would like to see from the Eagles today is running the football with the other guys. Like, let Kenny Gainwell get like 6 carries. I promise it'll be fine. Let Will Shipley get like 3-4 carries. You need to be able to show that you can run the ball with those guys on the field, because again, you're soon going to become like way too predictable when Barkley's out there versus when he's not. And with no receivers running around, and your receivers are Jahan Dotson, Paris Campbell, and Johnny Wilson, with Britton Covey obviously out for the next like 6 weeks or so, you got to be able to run the ball more. Like, you're going to have to run the ball like 30 times today. And, I don't love Barkley getting more than like 20 touches a game, let alone just 20 carries. So I'd like to see them, balance it out a little bit with the other guys, because Saquon Barkley's on pace for just an absurd amount of touches at this point, and he just won't last.
Jalen Hurts should have a chip on his shoulder in this game, because like guys on their defense basically said Hurts is an idiot. He can't read defenses. He's
yeah.
he threw the clunker. They lost to them in the playoffs. You let Baker cook you. You should be like, you should be coming into this game with a chip on your shoulder. And then look, I spent 20 minutes trashing Nick Sirianni. The Eagles are 3-0 under Sirianni going into their bye week, the game before their bye week. They beat the Jets. That was with Minshew start.
That was before the bye?
Yep, the Cowboy game where they played, the Cowboy game on Sunday Night Football when Dak came back. Was that, or Cooper Rush was playing that game for the Cowboys?
So the Eagles had their bye week.
They beat the Chiefs last year in Arrowhead going into their bye.
Yeah, that I remember. 2022. It was the Dallas game, right? Bye week. Where are you? Yeah. They beat Cooper Rush at home, and then last year was the Chiefs. Interesting. Okay. So there you go.
I mean, the big thing today is going to be them, I think, is stopping Chris Godwin. Is he let's look who are the injuries on the Bucs? They have a lot of injuries. They have more than the Eagles.
Eagles inactives officially today: Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Devin White, Lane Johnson. But you have Becton who's out there. Becton will be playing, which is nice. Tampa Bay inactives: Antoine Winfield and Jalen McMillan are those of note.
Kalijah Cansey.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Luke Godke, their right tackle, is out.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, if there's a game where Bryce Huff needs to do something, he's going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers backup right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Bryce Huff experiment ends if he just gets shut out again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
I'm going to go with the Eagles. I think, listen, against my better, I think you're going to see Sirianni have a better game than the last two, because he has to. He has no other choice, because if he botches this game in any way, Howie Roseman has already told Jeffrey Lurie that, if what the deal is. He's trying to basically idiot proof this team as much as humanly possible with the coordinators and the roster moves. Right?
Mm-hmm.
For him, there's no reason why they shouldn't be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Eagles, if they, I think they should stick with the 5-man fronts again, which I think just gives them their best bet to stop. Even though Tampa can't run the ball. They can't. Their offensive line's terrible. They can't run the ball. They're very bad in pass protect. I I think a 5-man front will also just help with the pass rush because, again, the ends can't win like on their own. So you got to, give as much help as you possibly can, send creative blitzing and all that sort of stuff. But like the secondary, you got to lean on them to have another good day. I trust it, honestly. Like I trust Slay, trust Quignon, trusting the safeties back there. So, yeah, I like how the Eagles kind of match up. They're just going to have to – it's going to be kind of gross down there, like 100 degrees. It's going to be probably a little windy too. Like it's going to be gross. They just need to – I'd love for Jalen Hurts not to turn the ball over. This turnover streak it's getting to a point where it's like just stop doing it and like everything will be fine. But I would like a game with no turnovers on the offensive side of the ball, and maybe get an early turnover on the defense, steal a possession, get up a couple
The
scores.
Eagles have lost the turnover battle in their first 3 games.
Yeah, I know. It's a miracle that you win 2 of those.
Yeah, it needs to stop. They need and listen, we speak positively about Baker on this show. We're not Baker haters.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like sort of like Carr, where he had 2 really good games to start the year.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of feels like with Fangio's defense, he's going to throw out different coverages. He's gonna challenge Baker mentally, and we know Baker's like a F it, I'm going to throw the ball type QB.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Eagles, dude. I really like the Eagles. I'm taking them.
All right.
Okay. That's our show.
That's our show, everybody. Week 4 is upon us. Baseball clinching scenarios. Wild card week starts next week. Baseball playoffs, always a great time.
We're gonna have a very more base. I think next week it's gonna be more baseball centered as well as the picks.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do our weekly breakdowns for Thursday Night Football and then the Eagle game as well.
Yep.
Thank everybody for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to our show down in the South, our prayers are with you. We hope you stay safe.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's okay. Take care, and have a nice day, everybody.
Mm-hmm.